When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in November of 1620, they came to a land of magnificent forests, filled with game of all kinds. There were great numbers of bear, wolves, foxes, wild turkeys, beavers, moose, and deer. One colonist wrote that the deer were so plentiful that in the spring you could see as many as 100 of them in the space of a mile. The fish were so thick in the streams along the coast that you could practically walk on their backs without getting your feet wet. This land had been claimed by agents of the King of England. The problem was, there were already people living here. Relations between the colonists and the Indians varied, but Indians helped the Pilgrims survive their first harsh winter in the New World. What we now call Thanksgiving got its start at Plymouth in 1621, where Pilgrims held a 3-day feast to give thanks for a successful harvest. There were more Indians at the first Thanksgiving than there were Pilgrims. As time went by and the white settlers from Europe spread across the eastern United States, they came in contact with hundreds of different Indian tribes. Problems developed early on because the Indians needed access to expanses of open land in order to continue their life of hunting and gathering. The Indians didn't believe you could own land any more than you could own sunshine or rain. The settlers' lifestyle made it impossible for the Indians to continue living as they had. In supporting the settlers, the U.S. government used any means necessary to drive the Indians off disputed land. This included making war against them, buying the land from them at a fraction of its value, and forcibly moving them to other parts of the country. A pattern was created where the U.S. government took what it wanted from the Indians. As the settlers' march to the west continued, they came to the Mississippi River. Shortly after crossing this mighty river, they came to the great American prairie land.
The prairie flows with an endless tide, reaches out till it meets the sky, and gives to those who look inside on the prairie land. Long ago it was an inland sea, and the waves rolled in forever it seemed, and turtles swam where the grass is green on the prairie land. The sea turned to cloud and it sailed away. The land grew rich and new life came, and dinosaurs ruled though none remain on the prairie land. And the prairie wind so strange carries sounds you can't explain, the lingering ghost of endless change on the prairie land. The lizard kings faded from sight, but the mammals survived in the cold of the night, and there came a tribe that walked upright on the prairie land. Cheyenne, Sioux, Comanche, and Crow, the wisdom they held we will never know. Proud and free they no longer roam the prairie land. And the prairie wind so strange carries sounds you can't explain, the lingering ghost of endless change on the prairie land. The settlers came to the promised land. They plowed the ground and toiled by hand, and they laid the base for all that stands on the prairie land. Now there's a shopping mall and it suffocates the land, and the people inside, they don't understand. The soil beneath is magic in your hand on the prairie land. And you can feel the endless tide, you can see it meet the sky, coming home to the prairie land. When a cool west wind blows, it's music to my soul, coming home to the prairie land, coming home to the prairie land.
There were two masters of the Great Plains, the bison or buffalo, and the Plains Indians. When the white settlers came to the Great Plains, there were millions of buffalo living there. Some herds were so huge it took days for them to pass. The Plains Indians hunted the buffalo and had a use for almost every part of it. The Plains Indians were excellent warriors, and when the U.S. Army had trouble beating them at war, they decided to control the Indians by taking away their food supply. A campaign began to exterminate the buffalo. In short time, the buffalo was almost extinct, and you could ride all day across the prairie and never see a living buffalo and never be out of sight of the bones of a dead one. In this way, the Plains Indians were defeated and forced to live on what we call reservations. The Pine Ridge Reservation is located in the southwest corner of South Dakota on the Nebraska border. At approximately 3,500 square miles, it is the 8th largest reservation in the United States, but less than 5% of the land is suitable for agriculture. Living on the Pine Ridge Reservation is like living in a third world country. It is consistently ranked as one of the poorest areas in the nation. People living there have the shortest life expectancy of any place in America, 47 years for males and 52 for females. The infant mortality rate is 5 times the national average, and the adolescent suicide rate is 4 times the national average. The unemployment rate is around 80%, and the per capita income is around $4,000 per year.
When most people from Indiana head to South Dakota, it's for a vacation to see Mount Rushmore and the Badlands. But for one 2006 University of Southern Indiana grad, it was the plains of southwest South Dakota and the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation that called her. Evansville's Katie Parker once visited the reservation as part of a church mission trip, but it was a class research project in multicultural education that led her to taking a teaching job teaching the Sioux, or Lakota, children.
It was about looking at different nations and then presenting on them, and I chose the Lakota to look at their nation.
Parker teaches middle school students at Lone Man School. Outside of the challenges of moving over 1,000 miles away from her home for her first teaching job, the Harrison High grad had to deal with teaching in a school that's located within the poorest county in the nation.
I've talked to some of my friends who are in Evansville and some who are in the Washington, D.C. area, and they have a few problems here and there where a student might forget homework, their kids aren't starving during the weekend, their kids don't go to bed without dinner.
As the school has little money, everyday needs are sometimes hard to meet.
We're a rather poor school, so we don't have enough books for every student. They have to share, so I can't send books home. When they go home, they're not thinking about school. They have 3, 4, 5 little brothers or cousins that live with them that they have to take care of. They have to cook dinner. They have to be the parent, basically.
Parker is heading into her 3rd year teaching on the reservation, and it was a donation that led to one of her proudest moments.
Then we didn't have any books for boys that to read that they were interested in. And then we got some books about guns and about weapons, things that they want to read, and after that, they wanted to read everything.
Reporting for USI, I'm John Morris.